Hello and welcome to my channel. Hi everybody. My name is Laura and I like to make stuff, and I have another quilt that I want to make using this book, 1,000 Great Quilt Blocks. It really does have a lot of great quilt blocks, and I have a lot of flags, a lot of ideas. This quilt, I have had a rough idea of what I've wanted for a while now, specifically the fabrics in mind. Now, this is for my friend Tazzy and her husband Fedja, and so Taz, if you're watching and you want this to be a surprise, maybe stop watching now, because I'm gonna pull out the fabrics that I got, which are so cute. So all right, bye. If you want this to be a surprise, Taz, bye. All right, pulling out the fabrics now. Well, first, I had 3 fabrics in mind. Yeah, we'll just pull out the fabrics. 3 fabrics in mind. I knew that I wanted a black and a white and some kind of either red or purple or mix. They both are very geeky, and well, Tazzy has a space tattoo, so I got her space fabrics, which she almost picked this one for herself when she was learning to sew. But she picked a different one, and I almost picked that one, but I didn't. I picked this one, and I think this one's gonna work better for the quilt, but it's sparkly, and I'm very excited about this one. And then I got, Fedja is really into music. He's a music teacher, and so, and he's also got like a motorcycle and stuff. So he's really, I wanted this quilt to be like for both of them, because it's probably gonna be on their bed. I would encourage it to be on their bed, if they want. Use the quilt, damn it. But I wanted some kind of homage to music in the fabrics, and I liked this one because it was super subtle. So it was black with like a grayish tone for the actual music notes. So I thought this was a nice, like, subtle but good fabric for the mix. And then Tazzy loves paisleys, and so for the light version, the light fabric, I'm trying to see if you can, the sun just came out, oh goodness. So I got this fabric, and it's white. Again, I wanted it to be subtle, but because it, you know, maybe a little bit sophisticated in their quilt, but also things that they would like and appreciate. So I got this fabric, which has little paisleys on it, and it's white on white, and I think it's so cute. So the quilt block that I want to make from this is this one right here, and Miss Maggie calls it the Easy Quilt, as in E-Z. It does look pretty simple. It looks like there's a 9 patch in the center, and then some half square triangles around the edge, as well as squares. Now, the sizing that she has down here is for 2.5 and 2 1/8, but I'm not going that small. I'm going to do this in 4-inch squares, with cutting out 4.5-inch squares for the half square triangles, so that I can trim them down to 4-inch. So that's what we're going with. I'm really excited, but the other thing to note about choosing this one, and the lesson that I've learned from the quilt that I actually just finished, was that my last video? I don't even remember. The quilt that I just finished, I have to be on top of my seam allowances if I want, in the final joining, for all of these squares to align. It's going to be pretty noticeable if I don't do a border around the edge, if they don't align. So, but I have faith in myself that, you know, my skills have progressed enough. I can do it. I can do it! So, yeah, that's what we're going with. So let's get some cutting done. I need to cut strips of 4 inches for all 3, and then, oh goodness, which color am I doing for what? Well, I think we'll stick to this. So 4 inches for everything, And then the darkest color here would be the black fabric. So this is the only one I don't need to cut 4.5-inch strips, but I do for the other two fabrics. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do for the white and the Galaxy, I might do 1/2 strips. So half will be 4.5-inch and then half will be 4-inch. I think that'll work best. And then just 4-inch for all of the black. Okay, okay, I'm excited. So here I am cutting the strips. I am going to give you forewarning that, foreshadowing, I did not do a very good job cutting my strips. They were ever so slightly off, and boy, in quilting, even the slightest offness can really mess up the final result, which is, it is what it is. So, at least with this one, these looked alright. It was mainly the black, I think, and the main 4-inch square. So I'm trying to do a little bit more planning with this quilt than I normally do. I usually just make as many blocks as I make and then see how large the quilt is going to be, how large the quilt will be once it's finished, you know, given how many squares I can make or how many blocks I can make. But with this one I am trying to be a little bit better. So I've decided to aim for 16 by 16 or 16 blocks basically. So so it would be 4 by 4 for the final blocks. Now I understand that mistakes happen. So what I decided to do, because I didn't want to figure out all of the fabric, was I just cut strips based off of what they were telling me I was going to need. So these 3 piles here are, we have these 2 which aren't going to need to have as many single squares. These are all 4-inch strips. These 2 have 16 sets, or 16, I counted 16 here, 16, and then this one has double that amount, so this one has 32. And then I did 16 of each of the 4.5-inch strips. So in theory, it should give me leftovers because I should be able to fit, I need 4 out of each one of these strips, and I should definitely get 4.5 squares. So there will be extras, which is good. I'm gonna make more than 16 total blocks because I have a tendency to make mistakes and sometimes things get a little wonky, and so I think that this will help me be able to get a better final result if I can have extras to measure for those final blocks to make sure that they're all the right size. Because like I said, this block here needs to be accurate. Now I should have ironed my fabric before I did all this, but did I do that? No. So how committed to perfection am I? Not that committed apparently, but I'm, you know, we're trying something new. So now I got to cut these strips into squares, and then it's sewing time. All right. It took a while to cut all of the squares, however, not as long as sewing and cutting the half square triangles. I did leave, and this is where the problem was, in my black square strips, I do believe that they were ever so slightly larger than 4 inches, and like I think I gave them like maybe 1/4 of an inch, but that was the problem. And I know that this is leftover habits from what I do when I'm making clothing. I give myself a little bit of extra room, but I need to remember with quilting, I have to be as exact as possible, especially at the beginning. My half squares were fine though. especially when they all trim down, I didn't have to discard a single one. All right, so I am checking in. I have my half squares finished. I have cut up 4-inch squares for the rest of the block pattern. And boy, do these look so satisfying. I love, love the little piles. I decided with the pattern that I'm gonna do a 9 patch for the center bit, and then the rest of the block pattern I'm gonna add as strips on the outside. Pulling this up, where am I? Right here. So the center bit is a 9 patch, and then we'll do strips for the outer part. And I think that's gonna work best. I'm really liking the colors. I'm excited for this quilt. I think it's gonna be beautiful in the end. I need to make 16 of these because I want 16 blocks total. I'm gonna do it 4x4. And I think I had referenced that like I would have extras. I'm not gonna have extras at all when I was cutting them up because they're small enough. I needed more pieces, I guess. And I'm actually a little concerned about the ending size. I never calculate that, and it worries me to try to calculate that because things happen while you're going through the process that you know, at least me with less experience, I can't, you know, account for. I just like to see where it's going to end up, I guess. It's got a life of its own. It's got a mind of its own. I'm just here putting it together. So let's get back to work. Okay. The 9 patch process was pretty simple and easy, and I'm sure there are other ways I could have gone about this, but it's easier for my brain to wrap around. I usually do 6 of them together in strips, and then I attach them later. This isn't a full tutorial, so I hopefully, if you're watching these videos, I hope you know how to make a 9 patch in your own way that works best for you. I'm now ironing them, and boy, I know it's not the right way to do things, but I enjoy ironing from the front. It's easier for me. As I'm sewing, because I don't use pins, I usually just finger press seam allowances in the opposite directions if I can. But yeah, I enjoy seeing, the more I quilt, the more I enjoy ironing, I guess. I do the same for my half squares. I iron them on the front. It's just easier. Although I do believe that this is a more common way for half squares, at least opening them. It's just easier. I don't know. Let me know how you do it. Give me some tips. And then, like I said, I didn't have to discard a single half square, which made me really proud because in the past I've tried to keep my seam allowances good, and even with trimming down, I'll have a few that I lose because they're too small. But I didn't have that problem this time, so I am in fact improving, and I am proud of that, okay? Okay, I'm just jumping on to say that I have more than 16 blocks here because while making them, I discovered that I did have more cuts than I realized, which is good news because I want to make this at least a queen size. And so that means that I have enough to do another row down and across, making it so that it should be approximately a queen size quilt. I'll accept a full. I'm taking a break from cutting and squaring down all my squares. I'm close to halfway through. This is how many I have to do left. I'm tired, Grandma. I'm tired.
That's too damn bad.
But I want to. Okay, back to work. It is currently late Friday night. I live such an exciting life that I'm over here sewing. I decided I think I had mentioned that I was going to sew strips for around the blocks, the squares. So I've done that. What I'm going to do, because I pretty much sewed them all up, so I know I have enough to go all the way around for all 4 sides. So what I am going to do is first sew on these 2 sides for all of the squares, and then I'm going to put the corner blocks I'm going to sew them onto the remaining strips that I have for the other sides. I hope all of that makes sense. It's almost midnight. That could be an exaggeration. It could be. But you know what's going on. All right. I'm sure you'll see when I sew it all together. Okay. Back to work. After a late night, this is where I am now. I have the 2 strips along the sides sewn up. And now I added white little squares to the edges of my leftover strips. And so now I need to iron everything and then sew the top and the bottom strips on. And the way that I'm going to do this, so I did notice that some of the attachments, I tried to line them up on the black squares. There were some of the strips that were larger than the squares for the 9 patch, and so doing it this way, I was able to stop and sew some of them smaller so that they would fit and match, which was really helpful, I think. I didn't do it for all of them because I was feeling lazy, but I did do it for some of them, and I intend to do it for these as well. And then after they're all sewn up, I do want to do one final iron and then measuring to see that if they're all the same size or not. And how badly they're not the same size, if they are not the same size. So that is my day today, or part of it anyway, because it's already afternoon. So I'm really excited though. I think this is going to look so good. So in the previous clip, I did mention that I was sewing the strips smaller to make them fit better. And it was mainly because of those black squares. Majority of the problem came from the black squares. The cuts matter. I don't know how many times I need to tell myself this. Maybe I need to make a note to myself. But here I am ironing. I didn't do a final trim, and maybe that would have helped as well. However, when I was ironing, they were so close, and I had already done the trims for the half squares, and I didn't want to do it again, okay? The final result is 5 by 5 squares. And it's a pretty decent sized quilt, so it was exactly what I wanted. I did the final attachments by 4s, just doing little 4 squares and then slowly adding them together. And I think that worked well for helping me make sure everything was as aligned as possible. And this is the final result. Now, all of that talk, looking at the footage here, it's not as misaligned as previous projects. I shouldn't be so frustrated with myself. I am still learning, I am still growing, and it does actually look pretty good from far away. I've definitely learned, like, you can clearly see that there are some areas that are misaligned. When I was putting them together, I kind of figured out which ones would be the biggest problem, and I tried to put those on the edge so that the center would be the most aligned. And I feel like it looks pretty good, honestly. Looking at the smaller thumbnails, I think once it's on a bed, once it's finished being quilted, you're not really going to be able to notice at all. And I love that from far away, you can't really tell the little bit of design, so it does look like it's plain black fabric and plain white fabric, and then maybe some marbled purpley fabric, but it's space. And there is the roommate's kitty playing with the quilt, and I gotta go get her. Silly, silly girl. Yeah, and maybe I hyped up my alignment issues too much in the beginning, because now at the end, I think it looks pretty good. I'm excited for the final result. I don't think the alignment issues are that noticeable, and it's clear that I have progressed, so that's all that I can ask for, really. Thank you so much for watching. I try to post every other Tuesday, so subscribe if you want to join me in making stuff. I'll see you guys later. Bye.